Look at the habits that you have that aren't serving you, and then start to look at habits that you can start to replace those with. But once again, it's all well and good to be aware of these habits, but we actually have to start to put them into action. So from tomorrow, think about one thing that you can make a small change around, because all it takes to make a change is to be 1% better today than you were yesterday and 1% better tomorrow than you are today. So how can we start to make those small changes? Hey legends, welcome to another episode of the INTOCHANGE podcast, and thank you for joining me today on this solo episode. So unfortunately, you guys are stuck with me again. I know it's been a minute since I've actually done one of these solo episodes, but I really want to get back in the hang of doing them regularly, because I feel like there's so much value I can give you guys through these things. And once again, all the things I talk about on these solo episodes are just my experiences and my perspective, but hopefully it can give you guys some little nuggets that you can take away into your lives, into your lives. Obviously, English is not my strong suit, but I'm doing my best here, so bear with me. But before we go into the episode, I would love to put it out to you guys if there's anything you'd like me to talk about, parts of my story, a topic that you'd like me to cover, um, anything else that you'd like me to give my opinion on or my perspective on. Please just leave a comment below, send me a DM, send me a pigeon, whatever you got to do, smoke signals. Just get the message out to me somehow, and I will do my best to cover that topic for you guys, because obviously I've got a lot of content that I can cover. But if there's anything you guys would love to hear, please let me know, and I'd love to cover that first before I start putting my own stuff out. But like I said, onto today's solo episode, we're going to be talking about habits. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably seen, if you follow me on socials, that recently I've been doing this thing called the Break the Habit Challenge, which is a challenge which I was set by Meg and Will Martin, who are the founders of Mega Run and also good friends of mine. Now, anyone that follows them would see that they have also been doing the challenge, and they're all around Europe at the moment and pulling over on the side of the road, popping out push-ups and squats and all that sort of stuff. And this is all due to the Break the Habit Challenge. Now, the Break the Habit Challenge is to do exactly that. It's to break a habit. And the idea behind it is that no matter where you are, if you do the thing that you said you're not going to do, the habit you're trying to break. So for me, it's the F-bomb and the C-bomb, saying those words, as well as I've also included, obviously, and then also use the word use. And I want to add another one as well, which I'm really bad at doing, which is cutting people off mid-conversation and adding my perspective. So I'm not really listening. I'm actually just trying to get my point across. And as a male, this is something a lot of us do. But just in general, in conversation, I feel like I struggle to just sit and be present and listen. So I want to really try and practice that. So if you guys catch up with me in the next few weeks and I do that and cut you off, call me out on it, because I'm bad at that. And I will do 20 push-ups and 20 squats. But as I said, so you do any of these things, you do 20 push-ups, 20 squats, no matter where you are. You could be in the middle of a restaurant, you could be in the middle of a cinema, you could be on the side of the highway. I've done that a couple of times where I've had to pull over on a conversation with a friend through Bluetooth. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Bro, I just had to pull over a sec because I'm doing my push-ups and doing my squats because I just said an F-bomb." And I didn't actually realize how much I said it until I started getting like 180 push-ups and 180 squats within like 20 minutes of a PT session with a client. This is about 2 weeks ago, Friday. So to say that I swear a lot would be an understatement, but to say that I've made a change since starting the habit would be 100% on point, because I can catch myself out now. Prior to doing this challenge, not having the awareness around it, and that's what the challenge does, is it brings awareness. It doesn't give you any sort of magic spell or anything like that, but because you've got something that's like, I don't really want to do these push-ups, I don't really want to do these squats, so it's almost like a punishment, but at the same time, you're getting jacked while you do it, right? So I don't really see it as a punishment. It's just a bit of a tedious thing to do depending on what situation you find yourself in. But because you've got this thing hanging over your head, it makes you more aware of these little habits that you have. So if there's something that you're trying to break when it comes to a habit, that's a really good way to do it. A really good way to do it is to have some sort of reward slash discipline system to stop you from doing that thing, because otherwise it's not important enough to you. If there's something hanging over your head, like having to do 20 push-ups and 20 squats in the middle of wherever you are, say you're walking down a supermarket and you decide that you want to say an F-bomb, you're on the phone to a friend, you have to start doing push-ups and squats, you're going to get looked at really funnily. People are going to give you the weirdest looks. So I can see how that really helps, because I can tell you right now, like I said, after doing like 180 push-ups in 20 minutes in one of my PT sessions, I was over it. I feel like I was working harder than my client was. He thought it was great. He thought it was great. And the boys constantly swearing, trying to get me to fall into the trap. But I've definitely noticed a massive improvement. And it's because we have that thing holding us accountable. But once again, at the end of the day, when it comes to this challenge, it's something you have to hold yourself accountable to. So I'm going to own the fact that there was 2 days this week where I didn't hold myself accountable and I haven't been doing the push-ups and squats, but I'm back on track now. I did slip off. So I'm starting the challenge again today, which is 21 days, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So Megan will correct me if I'm wrong with that one, but 21 days from today, I should have broken the habit. And this is the thing, I probably will continue to use those words. I want to try and drop the C bomb completely, but I will probably continue to use those words. Not obviously not use, but the F bomb from time to time, but nowhere near as much as what I had, nowhere near as much as what I had been doing. And I've already noticed that change. Now, when it comes to making a change around a habit, the first thing to remember is that habits aren't something you were born with, right? So if you're a smoker and you're trying to break the habit of that, if you're a binge eater and you're trying to break the habit of that, if you're playing computer games all night and trying to break the habit of that, it doesn't matter what the habit is. Remember, when you were born as a baby, you were a clean slate, and these things were pushed onto you by society, by your environment, by the people around you, and you started to go, okay, cool, these things are the things I want to do because the people around me are doing them, or whatever it might be, whatever the reason was for picking that habit up, or I just want to kill time because I don't like being by myself, so I'm going to play computer games. It doesn't matter wherever it comes from. These things aren't things we were born with, and just as we learnt those bad habits, you can also learn good habits to replace those bad habits. But the first thing to do is become conscious of the habits that you're trying to break. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about your best self, the best version of you. How does he walk? How does he talk? He or she, I should say. How do they dress? How do they interact with other people? What are they like with money? What do they spend their spare time doing? Who are the people they're surrounded by? What do they do on the weekends? You name it. Just go through a list of your best self. And then go through a list of who you are right now. So on a day-to-day basis, what are the things you do from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed? Let's just use weight loss as an example because it's a really easy example to sort of comprehend and use in this context. So let's just say you want to lose 10 kilos, but at the moment, you are not eating breakfast, you're drinking coffee first thing in the morning, you're eating fast food, you don't meal prep or eat anything that's home cooked. You aren't drinking much water. You're not going to the gym. You sit in a chair all day at work and you're very sedentary. Then you get home from work and you do the same thing. You're on Netflix or computer games, whatever it might be. You go to bed at like 12 o'clock and you're up at 4 or 5 o'clock to try and get ready for work because you're a tradie. That just contradicted what I said. Let's just say that you get up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because you've got insomnia for some reason. Now, you want to lose 10 kilos, right? Can you see how that there and the habits that that person has is actually going to contradict what they're saying they want to achieve? So in other words, their habits right now are stopping them from achieving that goal and actually pushing them further away from it. So when it comes to habits, you need to become aware of the ones that are no longer serving you because there are good and there are bad habits. As simple as that. And even though some of the habits you have now might have served you once upon a time, it doesn't mean they still serve you now. So it's really important to keep a check on what you're doing and making sure that you're moving in the right direction all the time. Quick little, I guess, segue into my happier, healthier you journal here, but that's a great way to sort of track where you're at with your habits and your daily tasks to make sure that you're moving in the right direction and not just staying stagnant. Because if you set your goals and then each day you're sort of just doing the same shit, you start to notice that you write the same answers and you know that you're not having, I guess, an optimal result. You're not moving in the right direction. Then it's like, okay, cool. You can check back in with yourself and then set more goals for the next week and the next week and the next week. And by setting those little goals and having something written down on paper, it's going to make things more real for you rather than just having those thoughts rattling around in your head because 99% of the time, or actually 100% of the time, a thought in your head or a goal that you've got in your head, until you write it down and actually start to action it and put things into place to start to work towards it, it will never be achieved. Back to where we're talking about habits. So think about the habits you have right now. Are they serving you and helping you move towards that goal? And if the answer is no, start to look at the habits of your best self. So your best self, the way he talks, the way he walks, the way he dresses, the way he eats, all these kinds of things. All these kinds of things are, I guess, little things that you'll have around the way of habits. So what would be the habits that your best self would have? Start to think about that. So let's just say that you want to lose 10 kilos. You want to be fit. So your best self is a fit, strong mother effer. Yeah, he's or she is oozing in confidence and whatever it might be. Yeah, trains at the gym 5 days a week. Okay, cool. So start with something simple. What's the easiest habit to break out of the ones that you currently have, out of that person we are talking about before, who is watching Netflix all night and doing this and doing that? Well, there's a lot of things we could start with, but I think the best one would be to start to implement sleep, getting good quality sleep, and going to bed at the same time every night and waking up at the same time every day. So getting some sort of routine around that sleep. Then from there, maybe preparing food the night before. So get in the habit of prepping the food that you need for the next day the night before to stop you from being in that habit of buying for convenience and eating shitty food. Well, there we go. There's two steps that are going to really help you to start losing weight, because less stress on the body, more recovery. Also eating better quality food because you're preparing it and you know what's in it. So then you can track it and actually see that it's going to work for you rather than against you. Okay, number 3, exercise. Well, easiest way to do this is go for a walk in the morning, go for a walk in the evening. Obviously, you can join the gym, you can play a sport, you can do whatever you want to do, but move the body. So start to look at these habits, and then whatever the ones are that obviously are popping up for you to help you to move. There's that, obviously I need to do 20 push-ups and 20 squats. It's going to be a long episode. All right. Now, where were we? So think about the habits that you have that aren't serving you, and then look at the habits we just spoke about. Oh, sorry, I'm puffed. Whew. Trust me, those 20 push-ups and 20 squats get old real quick. So hopefully no more obviously's and no F-bombs or C-bombs for the rest of this podcast. Anyways, so look at the habits that you have that aren't serving you, and then start to look at habits that you can start to replace those with. But once again, it's all well and good to be aware of these habits, but we actually have to start to put them into action. So from tomorrow, think about one thing that you can make a small change around, because all it takes to make a change is to be 1% better today than you were yesterday and 1% better tomorrow than you are today. So how can we start to make those small changes? Now, if it comes down to, I guess, the easiest one to pick, it might be getting up and going for a walk. Aim for 10,000 steps per day. I'm using weight loss again as an example, like I said, because it's the easiest to relate to. But let's just say it's starting a business. Okay, what's one small thing that you can do today that you haven't been doing? Or one small thing you can do today that you didn't do yesterday to help you move forward for tomorrow? Hey guys, sorry to interrupt again, but if you're liking what you see so far, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Remember, all your support is really appreciated, and I'll see you back over on the episode. Well, how about actually starting to write down a business plan? That'd be a great idea. You're talking about wanting to start this business, you're saying you want to do all these things, but you haven't put anything into action. This is the thing, you might not know where you want to be, so you might not know how to get to where you want to be, but as long as you know the destination, all you need to do is put one foot in front of the other, and eventually the path will start to be in front of you. I heard this analogy from someone on a call that I was on, and he's an NLP coach. Justin is his name, and shout out to Justin. This was a great analogy, and it really actually just helped me to have clarity around a couple of things that I was looking at that time. He said that, like when it comes to trying to reach these big goals, and we had that, imposter syndrome, and we have that maybe I won't be able to achieve this. It's like driving in fog. So you know where you're going, but you can't see the path. You can see 10 meters in front of yourself. So as long as you drive 10 meters and 10 meters and 10 meters, eventually you're going to reach that destination. But you don't need to know what the whole path looks like to get there. It's just about taking those small steps first. And that's the way that you want to break down your habits and your goals, right? It's breaking them down into small bite-sized chunks. So think about the habits right now that aren't serving you to reach that goal, whatever that goal might be. And I speak about goals a lot because I'm a very goal-orientated and driven person, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys are too. And I'm sure that, like 70% of the world, you set your goals and you don't hit them. So in other words, you're a goal setter, not a goal getter. And I know that I'd rather be a goal getter. So let's start to look at the habits that you can change to help you to reach that goal. And then obviously how you can start to implement that habit. So habits are something that you can stack. So if you think about, right, so we'll start base level, okay? So you start walking every day trying to lose weight. And then after that, after you start walking every day, it's like, okay, cool, well, this is working now, but it's not actually helping me reach that goal of wanting to, lose that body fat and put on 3 kilos of muscle. So then you start going to the gym, you make a habit of that. And then from there, you're eating good food. So you make a habit of that. And after eating good food, you then start to drink more water. You make a good habit of that. And then you start to sleep more and you make a good habit of that. Now, this is applicable to any goal that you have. Look at where you're currently at. What are the things that are letting you down? What are the things that are stopping you from reaching that goal? Because I can guarantee the only thing stopping you is you. I actually had a talk with a finance company the other day about this. So it doesn't matter what the goal is. The only thing stopping you from getting there is you. If you're not taking steps towards that for whatever reason, whatever story you're telling yourself, once again, 100% it's on you. So think about what that goal is. Think about the habits that are no longer serving you, tongue-tied, and then start to replace them with ones that will. So for me, a massive habit that I've had in the past was Instagram. I got stuck on it and I justified to myself to say that it was for work and it was for this and it was for that. But it actually started to take time away from my son. So the time that I was spending with my son. So I started to try and avoid it as much as possible. I downloaded this app actually called Opal, and I'm not getting paid for this, although I should do because I've been recommending it to everyone. Anyways, and the app locks all the other apps on your phone, and you have to go through a certain process and put a different keypad and all sorts of stuff in to actually open the app. And what I found was throughout the day, I'd be picking up my phone on autopilot, opening up the search bar, going to go to Instagram because I deleted Instagram off the homepage of my phone so that I couldn't actually just go and click it. Because I did the same thing. I was open. Before I knew it, I was in Instagram. I'm going on there for emails, and boom, all of a sudden I'm in Instagram. So I deleted it off the homepage. I had to actually search for it. And what I found was that now that the app was locked, I went to go click on it, and it's like, it's locked. And that sort of brought me to attention. Since then, I've cut my screen time down by almost 2 hours per day. I was at about 8 hours every day. Now it's at about 6. And then even further from that, some days I'm at between 4 and 5, just depending on the day and what I'm doing. So this is something that I put in place to sort of try and help me to break that habit. So the other habit that I started to replace the Instagram with was putting the phone on do not disturb while I'll be working. Okay, so even calls, messages, or anything like that, any cue that I have that's going to make me pick that phone up, because as soon as the phone goes in my hand, all of a sudden I'm on Instagram. It's an addiction, yeah. And as soon as the phone goes in my hand, boom, I'm in that app. So by having it on do not disturb, once again, it's another visual cue. So that's a habit that I get into now when I'm in a flow, when I really want to work hard. I do that. Now, that's a very simple one that I'm talking about. But let's look at some other habits that you might want to break. So it could be, snacking on food after dinner. Okay, cool. So a lot of the time when it comes to snacking on food after dinner, it's actually because you're tired. Not actually because you're hungry, but because you're tired. So your ghrelin and your leptin, which are the hormones that make you feel hungry and full, aren't regulating properly. So you'll probably find it about, 7, 8 o'clock, whatever time it is that you generally go to bed or before you go to bed, you're ravenous. So what's something we could do in place of that? Well, number one would be go to bed earlier. Number two would be get rid of all the snacks and shit in the house. Because I can guarantee if you have no snacks and no biscuits and no things like that, then you won't have a chance to eat them. You won't be able to eat them. And you'll probably find when you wake up in the morning, you aren't hungry. It's actually just been the ghrelin and leptin and the lack thereof, and the hormone regulation that actually has made that the issue. And I can say that confidently because I know for a fact that if I'm up past a certain time of night, I get peckish, like I'm talking ravenous, like I want to eat the whole house out of everything it has. I literally start chewing on the drywall. So that's one thing you could do. Go to bed a little bit earlier. Have a higher fat dinner. There's heaps of different things you could do. Okay, what about if you want to get fit? And at the moment, your habit is getting up out of bed right before you're meant to leave for work. So you're snoozing your alarm and then not going to the gym, not doing any kind of exercise in the day, and you're just rolling out and feeling like shit, wondering why. You want to stop that. Start with something really small. Put your phone on the other side of the room. Okay? Put your phone on the other side of the room so that way you're getting up as soon as that first alarm goes off, because you've literally physically got to get up to go and turn that alarm off. And that's something that I've used with lots of my clients as well. Works really, really well. Bonus points if you don't need to put it on the other side of the room and you actually get up on that first alarm, but that's discipline. And then from there, you might, instead of obviously going back to bed and, just snuggling back up and going all the way till you have to roll out for work, you might actually get up and go for a walk. So let's aim for that. Trying to implement some kind of exercise routine or something like that to help you in the morning to start the day the right way. Another way could be obviously starting to journal. So setting the day up the right way so that then you've got something to actually, or a plan for the day. So at the end of the day, there's literally habits that we have, once again, Your good habits and my good habits might be two different things. But the idea is that we identify the habits that are no longer serving us and then look for ones we can replace them with, because it doesn't have to be complicated. I've gone pretty in depth on this today, but habits don't change overnight. It's something that you have to continue to do time and time and time again, because habits, by definition, are the things that we do automatically. The things that we do automatically, like a computer program. By the age of 30 years old, I believe it is, 95% of what we do on a day-to-day basis is the subconscious mind. So think about the subconscious mind as like a computer. When you turn the computer on and it loads all the desktop up, and it loads up the start bar, and it loads up this, and it loads up that, all the stuff that goes on in the background. Those are where habits come from. So therefore, only 5% of what we do in a day-to-day basis is conscious brain. So you can see how obviously it's so hard for us to break habits. And like I said, they don't happen overnight. You might do really well for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden that little bitch voice in the back of the head kicks back in, because now you're getting uncomfortable. You're doing something that's not the same, and you're doing something that's new to you. The body's like, well, this doesn't feel great because I haven't done this before. So how can I go back to that comfort zone? Because the body likes to be in comfort. And so all of a sudden, it kicks you back out of that new habit you're trying to create and straight back into default mode. Straight back into the mode where you were before. Straight back into the mode that was no longer serving you. So you need to become aware of this and know that the more that you say no to that inner critic and that little bitch voice, the easier it will get. The easier it will get. But like I said, habits aren't broken overnight. They take time, they take work, they take effort, and they take discipline. So you need to be disciplined around this, because this is the thing. Even though it's hard right now, it won't always be that way. Getting up and going to the gym won't always be hard if you make a habit of it. You have to take the time to do that though. Meal prepping your food and eating the right kinds of foods won't always be a problem. Once again, you make a habit of that, it'll stay as a habit, but it's something you need to continue to do. But just as those habits can come in and replace the old bad habits can creep back in, which is why currently at the moment I'm doing 75 hard again for the fourth time. I noticed that I was getting really bad with food. I was going to Woolworths, Coles, where I was shopping, and I was buying the most ridiculous amount of snacks every time I went there. The most ridiculous amount. And as someone that likes to look after their body, I noticed that I was doing this, and I was like, man, I need to get out of this habit. So I stopped buying those foods. And this is the thing, if you don't buy those foods, they're not there. Have that discipline, have that self-control. But once you do it once, it makes it easier to do it again and again and again. Just as obviously the same as, I'll do it tomorrow. So I was meant to train legs today, maybe I'll train it tomorrow. You train upper body again. You train upper body again. You train upper body again. Dude, tomorrow never comes. You got to make sure that you do that consciously. You got to make sure that you actually put the effort in to make sure that you are doing that thing that you said you were going to do. Because every time you don't do it, you're letting yourself down, and in turn, you're breaking a promise to yourself, which makes it so much easier to break more promises to yourself. And then at the end of the day, you don't end up trusting yourself. So anything you say, there's a good chance you're actually not going to follow through on it. That's not a good place to be. Anyways, back to the moral of the story. Habits. You weren't born with them. You created them. You allowed them to be part of who you are. So in turn, they all can be broken. Yes, it might take time. Yes, it might take effort. But this is the thing. It is going to cost something to break that habit. But think about the cost of not breaking that habit and continuing on the path that you're on right now, long term. So if it's something around drinking and taking drugs, yeah, it feels good now, but it's not going to serve you long term. But sure, you might lose some friends, and sure, you might not get invited to certain events. But long term, who's going to be better? The person that's partying every weekend, or the person that pulled up and only does it on special occasions? What about the whole food thing? Okay, that's a great one, because as we look around at the people around us, we are stuck in an epidemic of obesity. Biggest epidemic we've ever had. And it's not going anywhere. People are starting to become more aware, but health is getting worse from what I've seen. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but health is definitely getting worse. The awareness around it is better. They're putting it in your face more, but that doesn't mean that anything's being done about it. Because it's up to us. It's up to us. You, me. Well, it was like backwards. But anyways, you, me, the people around us, it's up to us to actually make those changes. So let's just think about that. What's the cost of making a change to the food you're currently eating? Yes, you're not going to buy fast food. It's going to be harder. It means you need to do more work. And short term, you're going to have to put more effort in. Okay, what about the fact that it's probably not going to taste as good? That's a lie, because I cook food every night, which is very healthy and tastes amazing. But right now, because you're used to eating super palatable food and things that have been super processed, anything under the sun is going to taste not great compared to that, because those things are designed and developed to taste that good. So that means that other foods that, don't necessarily taste bad, do taste bad or do taste like they're bland because of the super amount of flavor that these processed foods have. Okay, what are the other implications of not eating these things? Or I guess not making those changes. So the other implications could be, once again, missing out on social events. Wrong. You can go out, you can get a steak, you can get a piece of chicken, you can go to a restaurant. I'm sure there's something there on the menu you can eat. Don't use that as an excuse. But yeah, okay, cool. Let's look at the positives. Feel better, look better, work better, more energy. Long term, health is going to be better overall. Risk versus reward. This is another thing to look at when it comes to your habits. What's the risk of keeping the habit? What's the reward of keeping the habit? And therefore, what's the risk of losing the habit? What's the reward from losing the habit? If you see that it outweighs the other, so that the risk of keeping the habit outweighs the reward, then why are you still doing it? Why are you still doing it? That's the thing. Yes, it is hard to break a habit, but that's the thing. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So start to look at the habits that you have right now and start to look at the best version of yourself and start to look at the habits that they have. And then all I want you to do, the one thing I want you to take away from this is look at the one thing, that one small thing that you can start to create a positive habit around today, which is going to serve you for tomorrow and help you to become that best version of yourself. So I think I did it right there. Only one set of push-ups and one set of squats for saying obviously out of context. Maybe I said it a few more times. I'm not too sure. If I did, pull me up, write it in the comments and let me know. But anyways, guys, thank you very much. I'll see you over on the next episode of the Interchange podcast.